Moving on to question number 7. Question number 7 is the same steps as question number 6. We just have one extra step because there's more to simplify there at the end. But the first part of that was to find the conjugate. And even though we have 2 square roots going on here on the bottom, conjugate is kind of the same concept. We're copying the bottom, but we're flipping. It's going to be a plus now. The sign. So copy that, but just change this. Earlier it was positive, so now it's a negative. In this example, we're going to change it to a positive. Always just flipping that sign there in the middle. But the rule with fractions, what you do to the bottom, you also have to do to the top. So we're going to copy the same thing here on the top. Next step, we're going to multiply. And what I like to do just to make my life easier is I don't like to combine this 2. I know that it's good practice to distribute to both terms. I don't like to combine it until the very end because it will make it easier to simplify if you don't combine them. So for the bottom, so I just copied here everything on the top. Copy that 2 down, copied all that down. For the bottom, we're going to slow down and do some work. So we got this 10 times 10. They're both in the square root. So when they're both inside the square root, what we did earlier, the number doesn't really change. We're just going to be left with 10. Always going to be a minus sign. Essentially what you're doing is negative times a positive, which is always going to be a negative. Even if it was a positive times a negative, that'll also be a negative. So this sign is always going to be minus. If you're not subtracting these 2 numbers, something's not right. And then next we got the 6, square root of 6. Since they're both inside the square root, we're not doing 6 times 6. If you did, you could do that. 6 times 6, that would be a square root of 36, which would still be 6. So yeah, that math is working out. It's kind of just copying the number there at the end. But this is the real math. You're multiplying those numbers inside the radical, doing the square root of that number. It always ends up being the original number. You can kind of skip that step. Okay, next we are going to simplify the bottom, the denominator. Let's go ahead and move this on over just to save myself some room. Copying the top. Not changing anything there just yet. Want to focus on the bottom. We're just going to combine 10 minus 6 to get 4. Now this is where the extra step comes into play, and the reason I didn't want to distribute the 2 because it's pretty easy to see, a lot easier than if it was distributed, that we can divide both of these numbers by 2. Right? And when we do that, 2 divided by 2, that ends up canceling it out because it's just going to be 1. And then this is now going to turn into a 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that leads me to my final answer. I'm going to copy the top without that 2 now because we just eliminated it. And the bottom is now going to be a positive 2. Now, we are actually done simplifying it. I know it doesn't look like a simple fraction. We've got 2 radicals going on, but we cannot combine these because even though the index is the same, the number inside is not the same. When we're adding, they have to have the same number. They have to be like radicals. But since we're not, since they're not the same number, we cannot combine them. Now, if we were multiplying, then we could say the square root of 60 and simplify and keep going from there. But adding and subtracting does kind of add some more complication. So this is actually going to be our final answer. Don't combine those, as tempting as it is.